Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for today's episode of Real Estate Disruptors. Today we have Dan Brault with House Buyers Club, and he flew in from Rochester, New York to talk about how he went from struggling to massive debt to paying off his debt in less than 12 months. If this is your first time tuning in, I am Steve Trang, founder of the OfferFast Homes app, the only MLS for off-market wholesale properties, and I'm on a mission to create 100 millionaires. We do have our workshop coming up in 3 weeks. If you want to see if you qualify, please go to disruptors.com. And if you get value, guys, today, please tag a friend below, share this episode, comment, so on. If you guys can really do this, it would help us a lot because that way we can all grow together because a rising tide does lift all boats. And this is a live show, so please ask your questions for Dan to answer. You ready?
Ready.
All right. So first question is, what got you into real estate?
I've always liked houses. And when I first started in real estate, I was in the medical device field and I was looking into retirement investing and didn't like the options I saw.
Yeah.
And started reading some real estate books, saw all the advantages that it had, long-term and short-term, and thought I could do that too.
So you didn't like your options you saw as in like 401k or?
Yeah, just the uncertainty, the lack of control. You know, I have a little bit of a control thing.
Sure.
So, it just seemed way more appealing to me. The cash flow, the depreciation, the equity gain just made sense to me.
So what books were the ones that opened your eyes?
So I think pretty much everyone that's been on this show has probably read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Honestly, I've read so many books, I don't even remember them all. I talked to every real estate investor I could find in Rochester and interviewed them, and read every book, even House Flipping for Dummies, Rental Properties for Dummies, all those. I read as much as I could.
Why I really like that part where you went to go talk to everyone, all the other investors in Rochester, because that's kind of how I started. Was I always interviewed, right? Can I pick your brain? Can I go to lunch and so on? Mm-hmm. So that's what you did. So talk to everyone. How was that experience?
I learned a lot. I mean, a lot about what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. Not all these guys were thrilled with what they had done, the businesses they had built.
Really?
Yeah, just, landlords, tenants are a pain.
Gotcha.
Areas to stay out of, some of those city properties, they look like they cash flow really well, but then you look at who's inside them and the headaches you have to deal with. So that helped me steer away from that.
Yeah. Can't make decisions based on just the cap rate.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not always what it seems.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, so when was that? When you were like investigating your options and which direction to go?
Yeah, I started all this about 5 years ago. So started out, flipped my first house, did all the work myself. That was a mistake. It was a disaster. I've never do that again.
Why was that a disaster?
Just, I hated it. About every second of it. It took me away from my wife. Well, we weren't married at the time yet, but I had a full-time job, and then I would go there after work on weekends. It just took up all my time, and I didn't really know what I was doing that much. I was learning on the job, and I think we maybe broke even on it, but. My first time, I made so many mistakes.
Well, you're also working full time too.
Yeah.
So you didn't quit to go do real estate yet?
No, not at that point.
Okay.
Not
so
yet.
What was that journey? So the first flip was a mistake. I mean, what I've said to people before, if you don't lose money in your first flip, you actually came out ahead.
Right.
Because you get to learn a lot on that first one.
Yeah.
So did you continue on this flipping progress? What did you do?
Yeah, after that, so I started acquiring a few rental properties, and then decided after that experience of doing the work myself and how well that went, decided to hire some crews to do the work. And so at that point, I got a pretty good crew. There was about 6 guys that were doing all the work, and they were able to do pretty much everything. And so they renovated some houses that I kept as rentals, and then the most of them we were just flipping.
Okay. So you're managing the crews and you're flipping. At which point, because we've talked about you had some large machinery.
Yeah.
Was this in that time period? Or
This was a few years later.
Okay.
So yeah, so I was still probably full time in the medical device field for about a year until I decided to go full time in real estate.
got it.
And that's when I really started to go do some bigger things. So about, well, it all ended about a year ago. So it started about 2 years ago. I took a shot at a historic luxury flip. We thought it would sell for a lot more than it did, and thought it would cost a lot less than it did.
So let's talk about that deal, because I
Yeah.
think this is a part of your story,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't get to where you are without this specific house.
Yeah.
So what was this house? So let's talk about the house.
Yeah, it was this in a village of this pretty, I don't want to say ritzy, but one of the nicer towns in Rochester. And it was this historic property, one of a kind. We thought, hey, this, one of a kind property has all this history. It's going to sell for this big number.
So how did you come across that deal?
A bandit sign.
Bandit signs.
Bandit
so you have
sign.
you're putting out bandit signs.
Yep.
So you were wholesaling also, or you were only flipping at that time?
At that time, I was wholesaling a little bit. I
Okay.
really wasn't focusing on it at all. I started wholesaling because I got these. I was buying deals from wholesalers, and I saw the fees that they were making. I was like, I can do that. Like, I don't want to pay that to them.
Yeah.
I just want to get that deal on my own.
Yeah.
So I started doing that a little bit.
Okay.
Just doing bandit signs at first.
So you're doing bandit signs.
Yep.
And you get this lead in this house. You go to it. Like, did you know about how distinctive it was before you went?
It had one of those plaques out front. It was
Like you see in the movies, like where they got the plaques, like the history and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was on the historic registry. It was an old it was first the first schoolhouse in the village, and then they transformed it to a Masonic temple. And then it was they vacated that, and then I turned it into a single family home.
Okay. So it wasn't a home when you
It
bought
was
it.
never a house.
Okay. So what were you able to buy it for?
Bought it for $200.
Okay. And what was your expectation?
We thought it would sell for about $1 million.
Yeah. Okay.
And
What? Because we all
Yeah.
are super optimistic as entrepreneurs.
Uh-huh.
We see the best case scenario
That's right.
every time. What was it that caused you to think it was going to sell for $1 million?
we had a room full of smart, experienced people comping it out, looking at the neighborhood, looking at the history, seeing some other houses that were on the market that were not too far from there. And just thought, based on the level of finish that we were going to put in there, that's what we would get.
Okay. So you had smart people confirming it wasn't just your crazy idea.
Right.
So smart people verified it should
Yeah.
sell for $1 million. You acquired for $200.
Yep.
What was the renovation?
$600,000.
$600,000. Why was it so much?
Gosh.
There must have been a few lessons in there.
So many mistakes. Let's call them lessons.
Lessons.
Gosh, we had to gut the entire thing. We rebuilt the whole house except for the exterior siding, which was cobblestone.
Okay.
So we took it. I mean, every single floor, wall, ceiling, we had to reframe. Each window is in a historic neighborhood, so we had to do everything like it was original. Each window, there were 24 windows in the house, cost $3,000 per window.
Okay.
It added up real fast.
Yeah, I did.
We put in, we did everything. It came out beautiful, but it cost way too much.
Were there, so one lesson maybe about the windows in historic homes, right? Which you sometimes have to learn. What were two other lessons that might have came out of that?
If you're flipping a house, it's gonna take a lot longer and cost a lot more than you think it will.
Yeah. All right. So you're getting into, was there a point where you're like, screw it, or let's just sell it in its current condition? Was throwing in the towel at some point a consideration?
I really wanted to finish it. I had to fire a lot of contractors on the job.
Yeah.
A lot.
And were you doing this on the side, or were you full-time at this point?
I was full time at that point.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one job took up almost all my time.
And how long was that project?
That took a year.
So a year.
Yeah.
kicking your ass.
Bad.
$600,000 in renovations.
Yeah.
What did you end up selling it for?
Gosh, I honestly sometimes even forget because it was such a nightmare. We started the price out at like $975, I think,
Which is in line.
and then we did so many price drops, it was ridiculous. It was on the market for a while. I ended up losing at least $150,000 on that job.
Okay.
It was nuts.
Okay. So was it because of the lofty sales price, going way over budget, or dealing with contractors? Like, what was the ultimate cause of that?
Man, I have to take the blame.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I learned a lot about myself in that process.
I bet.
One of which is that I hate managing people, especially contractors.
Yeah.
So that was the last flip I did.
Oh, really? That was the last flip.
That was the last flip I did.
Gotcha. Okay.
Managing people and managing contractors, I can do it. I've done it before. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
It drives me nuts. And you know, I tend to be optimistic, and I sometimes that helps me out because I go for things and I take chances, and lately they've really worked out well. But on this one, it was a big swing and a big miss.
Gotcha. So, you know, one of the things we're talking about was paying off personal debt.
Mm-hmm.
So the $150,000 loss on that one,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't have that all in your bank account.
No.
Where did that loss come from?
So that was only part of it.
Mm-hmm.
At that same time, while I was wrapping up that job, I had started another company. We were, great idea.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur. I thought it was going to work.
Yeah.
We had started a development company. We were going to be building houses, and a lot of which we were going to keep as for our portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
Put the main operations, running the crews and the construction, in the hands of a very skilled craftsman. And honestly, I was blinded by his skill because he was, as a craftsman, top notch.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't at all who I thought he was. And he ran those crews and jobs into the ground. And we had 6 full-time guys. We had a couple other part-time guys.
Mm-hmm. We
had some big machinery. I think 3 or 4 large pieces of machinery, you know, $50,000, $70,000 pieces of machinery.
Yeah.
That we ran out of money. That everything was just being mismanaged. I was probably taking on too much at that time. I put too much trust in him too soon, and that company just fell apart.
When you say ran the crews and the projects to the ground, what does that mean? Like,
he was not, for as much as I say I don't like managing people and I'm not good at it, he would tell me one thing and then the employee would come in and tell me a completely different story about how they were being treated.
Got it.
And so, you know, I never witnessed it in person because I think he always put on one face in front of me. But according to these other guys, he treated them like garbage.
Really?
And, you know, people were quitting and all the time. And the jobs were constantly over time, over budget. And we were in the middle of building someone's house and we ran out of money.
Yeah.
And I had to shut down the company. I had to lay off 6 guys. I had to voluntarily surrender all that machinery as a result of all that. I mean, legal fees, all that machinery that I had to pay off.
Legal fees? What legal fees?
That homeowner.
Mm.
She wasn't happy.
Yeah, I bet she was not.
No. That was, I mean, this was the most stressful period of my life by far, with those 2 things going on at the same time.
And what year was this?
Last year.
So 2019.
This was last year.
So 2019, you've got this company, which you felt would be going pretty good.
Yeah.
Got ran into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then you finished, because you didn't, it sounded like you didn't start this flip, but you finished the flip.
Finished the flip.
In 2019. So what were you in the hole on the development side?
That company at least 175, probably a little bit more after all said and done. I mean, together between the two, at least 350 in debt.
And the thing that's crazy is I don't think it's crazy to take on 2 projects, right? It definitely sucks like crazy to have 2 projects go south.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what we do as entrepreneurs. We take on projects like, oh, we can do this. I'll just do a quick aside. So last week I bought my daughter a bike. Okay. And you see my tiny car. And we had to take the wheels off to put the bike in the car. And I feel like this guy set me up for failure when he asked me this question. How confident are you that you can put the tires back on? As a guy, there's no answer except, of course I can do it. Man, that took 30 minutes too long to put the wheel back on. Oh. So we have this problem where we think we can do everything. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, because like you said, you're where you are because you took chances.
Yeah.
So what about, you're talking about 350 in a hole now between the 2 projects. You didn't have that money in the bank.
No.
So what did you do?
That was a really tough time. I had to liquidate my 401k. I sold my truck. We were selling stuff out of our house. Honestly, if it wasn't for my parents, I would have had to declare bankruptcy.
Got it.
It was really bad. It was.
So I married with a newborn.
Married at that point. Yeah, our daughter was 1. When I say stress, I had, they say, sick to your stomach. I got an ulcer. Like, I was going to the doctor. It was bad.
Got it.
Like, barely sleeping. It's just sitting up at night wondering, how am I going to deal with this? It was by far the most stressful year of my life. Nothing comes close.
And then at this point, you decided to go back to get a job?
Yeah, I was like, I'm done with real estate. Screw this. Not worth it.
Those books were all a sham.
No way. My risk profile went from I'll take on anything to I need something steady.
Yeah.
I put my wife through hell. We have a little daughter. I need to provide some security, some stability. I can't let this happen.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get back on track. Because before all that happened, we were doing great.
Right.
And then everything just went downhill real fast.
Yeah.
And so I went back into medical device sales. And that was just about the beginning of this year. And I was fortunate enough to find something pretty quickly with the company I used to be with.
Gotcha.
I was blessed to get that at a time where I was more stressed than I'd ever been, in a financial spot I'd never experienced before. To get that was a huge blessing.
Gotcha. And then we connected at some point around this time.
So shortly after, I had been there, so that started at the beginning of this year. And then, I was in, medical device, I was in the surgeries. I was in the operating room. COVID hit.
But you were actually inside?
Yeah.
Operating rooms?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, advising the surgical team on how to use our stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Pretty cool job.
It's interesting.
Yeah. It was great. I was doing really well. I had this new position that they created just for me to come back into the company to make it work. And so I was doing some traveling and advising people all around the Northeast on these new products.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then COVID hit and surgeries just stopped overnight. And so thankfully, my boss was nice enough to be giving me a salary still, but I wasn't eligible for any commission because there was no surgeries going on. And you know me, I can't sit still. I can't do nothing. And so I looked back and I said, well, there's still a lot of money in real estate. I'm not going to flip. Never doing that.
Yeah.
Wholesaling, I had done it before. I didn't love it. But it was always, the margins were great. And I said, well, I know there's a better way to do it. I know there's other people who are doing this well and enjoying it and doing the process better than what I've been doing. So I said, I got to get a coach. I need someone to guide me on this journey, because I know I can put it together. I just don't want to do it on my own, because I know I've been trying that. I've been trying to do it on my own.
Right.
It's not working that great. I can learn from other people who've already had that success. And so I just started doing some research. I was watching some videos. I found one of your podcasts and it's like, I'm gonna give that guy a call.
Yeah.
And then here we are.
Yeah. So you went at that time. So this is like right when COVID struck. So like around March or April.
Yeah.
And so we scheduled a call. We jump on. So at that time, real estate, there was no transactions. There was no wholesales, no flips, nothing. You were like, you tried it, that ship has sailed, I'm done.
Yeah, I was doing no real estate at that point.
Okay. So we worked together, right? Schedule a call, work together. What were the things that you say, the keys that really changed, that really unlocked all this for you? What were some of the major keys?
Yeah, so those lessons I learned last year, the value of other people, that just to have that community, that support, the value of other people's experience and knowledge. And so that just completely shifted my mindset. And I mean, you can imagine that was a very humbling experience last year.
Oh yeah.
And so my mind just sort of switched. I said, there are so many people that do so well at so many different things, and I can learn from them.
Yeah.
And not just from books, because I constantly read.
Yeah. I was intimidated by how many books were behind you when we did our call.
So not just from books, but from actually interacting, taking coaching programs, mentorships. And then you guys just put everything together.
Yeah.
And it's not just because I'm sitting here with you now. I mean, I talk about this to anyone that asks, that you've labeled it correctly. It's the blueprint. It gives you everything you need. And if you actually take action on it consistently, you're going to get the results. Wholesaling isn't that complicated.
No.
It's if you're halfway decent at sales and you're into personal development and you're constantly trying to get better, you're going to have success in wholesaling.
Right.
So the systems that you guys created and taught, I just put that into play and consistently took action on it, and it completely changed my business.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, we've coached a lot of people, and then you kind of like flew out of the gate. So for people, because you kind of touched on a little bit about consistent action, you want to emphasize that a little bit more, because there's a lot of people that will learn, but there's something different that separates. So what do you think that is?
A lot of people talk about massive action. That's not what gets success. It's never one big thing that gets you there. It's the little things every day. It's not the sexy stuff.
Yeah.
It's the day in, day out work that is behind the scenes that no one sees. It's the hours of role playing. It's the constantly adjusting the script to fit my style.
Yeah.
It's working on my CRM so that the process flows nicely. It's every little thing. It's doing something each day to get a little bit better. That's going to make the big difference over time.
Right.
And when you combine that with my background in personal development, I mean, you saw that picture of Tony Robbins holding me when I was like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And so that's just been around me for a long time. I think his Personal Power 2 program, it's CDs. It's like 30 days of CDs.
Oh, yeah.
I've probably listened to that 15 times at least, and it's a full 30-day program.
Really? I finished it once. I tried starting a second time. It's intense.
Yeah. And with the journal and everything and doing the whole, my dad gave that to me when I was in high school at some point. But he worked with Tony Robbins. He had a Tony Robbins franchise. So that was just always sort of what I grew up with. And I just really latched onto it. So taking that personal development side of things and then combining it with the great system and me moving very quickly with things in general, it just took off.
Yeah. So I think absolutely just everything that you're able to do, I think it's incredible. So you were already in medical device sales. Killed it?
I was doing well.
Okay. So now you've gone through our sales training. What's different?
This system, it's so different from pretty much every sales method that you'll learn out there for the most part. I mean,
Yeah.
most of it's a lot of questions, trying to get as many yeses as you can. With this one, I'm basically telling people not to sell to me. I'm asking very few questions. It's really interesting. It wouldn't seem like it works. It works amazingly well.
It shouldn't work.
It shouldn't, but it does.
With everything we know, it just shouldn't work.
It shouldn't. But it works so well. I mean, so many. It's statements, not questions.
Yeah.
It's you're making a lot of assumptions and you're voicing it and seeing how they react.
Yeah.
And just using that and just it's incredible how well it works. So it's none of those yes no questions. There's a few at the beginning. After that, there's almost no questions.
Right.
It's, as you said the other day, it's you're making statements that behave like open-ended questions.
Exactly.
And it works so well. It's incredible because, like you said, people love to correct you. And so if you make a statement that they don't agree with, they will correct you and tell you all the reasons why you're wrong, and then they're just selling themselves at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so the systems, the processes, the selling mindset. You attribute a lot of that to basically. I mean, if there was like a comeback player of the year, I mean, I think that's kind of like the award you would win, right? In wholesaling. So, did I get that right?
Yeah, I think the consistency of the program as well. Having the frequency of the calls, because you can learn something and maybe you'll be a little bit better afterwards, but when you keep practicing that, you take something new each time and you get you keep getting a little bit better, and so you're on this upward trajectory. And so that's where I see the big value in the program being for a longer period of time, where we're constantly working, we're constantly learning new things, and we're going over a lot of the same stuff. But there's so much value in that, because as you gain new experience in the marketplace, you're talking to new people, you have new things to reflect on. And so something that we're suddenly working on, you have a different perspective on it, and then you understand it in a totally different way.
Right, because you're actually doing it.
Right.
So you had sent me a vision board, or a picture of a vision board. You want to talk about that? Because I think this is good for a lot of people that are actually watching right now.
Yeah. The message between us?
The vision board, the picture, like what was on your vision board? You were saying like you were going to be here one day.
Oh, yeah. So we, gosh, that conversation, it seems like it was so long ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
It really wasn't that long ago.
No, it was earlier this year.
I think I said something like, I can't wait to be on the show. And you said, you're going to be one of my biggest success stories.
Yeah.
Can't wait to have you on.
Yeah.
And that's up in my office, right above my computer. And I thought it would be. I was like, I'm gonna get on the show. I can do it. I didn't think it'd be this quick.
No, I don't know if anyone would expect it to be this quick, but I think that's awesome, right? So I think that's a testament. I mean, selfishly or self-biased, I think our system has helped, but at the end of the day, it doesn't happen without you taking the consistent action, which is something you guys heard me say a few times in the introduction. The key is consistent action, not massive action. And so I want to talk about front row dads, but before we get to there, one thing you mentioned is the managing the people that you haven't enjoyed it. Not your most favorite thing to do. And so we recently, actually today, we were talking about Predictive Index.
Yeah.
And it's something that Eric Brewer was here on the show last week. We were talking about Predictive Index. So you want to talk about how that tool has helped you bring on your chief integration officer? Yeah.
So the Predictive Index, I wish I knew about it a long time ago.
Me too.
Even just for myself, for analyzing myself and my personal relationships. But it's amazing how accurate it is. It really, so Mike, the guy who's facilitating the Predictive Index, was going through my results, and he said, so at this time you were probably going through this type of thought process, and you're probably this type of experience. And I hadn't told him any of this stuff. It was like he was a fortune teller. And the accuracy of it is incredible. And so it allows you to really hone in on what you're good at, what your natural tendencies are, and then how you interact with other people, how you should maybe change some things based on your personality and who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And then also you can create on there, the great part about that for hiring, you can create these job profiles, and there's so many other people that have done that before. And so you can match it up to past people who've done it, say, this is generally the type of profile you're going to want for this type of job.
Right.
And people submit their results and you see how well they match up. And it gives you this whole guide of how to interview them, and even how you're going to interact with them and what you might need to adjust based on their style. And so based on all that, I learned about myself, like, hey, I'm a super driver, literally off the chart. Couldn't get any higher. There was the arrow pointing all the way off the chart saying you are in need of more control than pretty much anyone else.
Yeah, you're extreme.
I'm very, very low on the patience scale, about 2 standard deviations less than the norm. So for needing to be in a ton of control, having low patience, having a little bit lower on the extroverted side, more introverted, I'm just not the best person for managing people. I move too quick, and I'm too impatient, and I probably don't explain things as well as I could. And so I'm great if someone has a baseline level of knowledge and I'm just there to like get them to the next level.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing in my personal training days. Like, if I had to deal with a newbie, I couldn't stand it. It just drive me nuts. Like, having to teach them the very basic stuff.
Yeah.
But taking someone from, they had some experience to that next level, that was my key. That was where I was the best.
Awesome.
So
guys, that's a plug for Predictive Index. But if you guys aren't convinced, you guys can send me a message either on Instagram or Facebook. I'll post a link to this later on as well, where you guys can take the Predictive Index test. I've offered it before, so it's really crazy how accurate it is. And it wasn't until I took it that I realized, like, what's wrong with me, you know? Why I can collaborate with just about anybody, but man, being in a situation where I'm not like the majority decision maker, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, I can't have someone make decisions for me. It just won't work. All right, so one thing that you and I were talking about also was front row dads, and it's something you're really passionate about. And I think it's something that a lot of us, when we get into this business, we do it, you know, it's either for the money or for the time or both. I want to have more time, I want to have more money, or whatever. We all have this mindset, and then we get into this business and we completely forget all about it.
Yeah.
And all we're doing is hustle and grind, hustle and grind. You see like memes all the time about hustling and grinding.
Yeah.
And so everyone's trying to see who can work more hours in a week. But you're taking a different approach.
I'm working on it.
Front row dads.
I'm working on it. Yeah. So, you know, as things have scaled really quickly for my business, I found my time wasn't a good reflection of my priorities. And family for me, you know, I lived in California for a year. I moved back to the East Coast because of family, not for the weather. Certainly not for the weather in upstate New York.
I hear Rochester's great.
Yeah.
This time of year.
Yeah. It's amazing. You should come. And so as I was getting busier and busier, I was finding, you know, I'm doing stuff after 5. I'm doing stuff on the weekends for work. I'm constantly answering emails, text messages for buyers, sellers. I was totally unbalanced. And so a buddy of mine was a part of this group, and he had mentioned it to me, called Front Row Dads. And their whole motto is family men with businesses, not businessmen with families. And that resonated to me really strongly, because I saw myself going down this path. And I was thinking, if I keep going down this path, there's a big business and a lot of money down it, but my schedule is going to be awful. I'm going to sacrifice the things that are really the most important, which are the relationships.
The why you're doing this.
Right. And well, that's where so many people go wrong. They say, I'm working so hard for my family. That's not true.
Yeah.
You're doing it for yourself.
Of course.
You're doing it for the things you can buy with it, and for the clout, and for social media, and not because it's going to make you so much happier.
Right.
Because really, money can buy only so much. if you lose all your relationships in the process, you're going to be miserable.
Right.
There are plenty of billionaires out there that are miserable because they ruined all their relationships in the process.
Yeah.
And I saw what the business could become because I see all the people that are having so much success in it, but I wasn't willing to sacrifice on the relationship side. And so I needed to be surrounded by a group of people that had those same values. And this group, there are high level guys in there. Guys that, multimillionaires, run big businesses, guys from all over the world. And that is their focus. Family first, while still operating really great businesses. And so, I'm a new member. I just joined maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I'm blown away. We just had a full day online summit, and I learned so much more than I thought I was going to. And for anyone out there who's thinking about their life being a little bit out of balance in terms of work and family and need to reprioritize and really start focusing on those people that are those relationships that are truly the most important, and you want some role models to learn from and collaborate with, it's the best group out there.
Yeah.
I'm blown away by it.
Yeah. And I think it's powerful. And I think it's, for everyone to, again, the reason why we get into this business, but then once we get into the business, you completely forget about it.
Yeah.
And so one of the questions I've heard before, and I think it's powerful, is, everyone says they're doing it for the family. But if I were to pull up on your calendar, would your calendar reflect that you're doing it for your family?
That's right.
And I think that's a really good point that you just hit on, because we say it, but really we make enough money where we can stop. Right. Or not that we could stop, but we don't have to go this hard. Right. We can go 75, 80% and still maintain pretty solid income. But
growth is so addictive.
It is.
It's you have success and you see all the things you can do, and you're like, I just want to get it bigger. I want to do more.
Yeah.
It's not always better.
It's not always better, but it's also what gets us out of bed.
Right.
It's that chase.
It's a tough balance.
Yeah.
For hard driving entrepreneurs, that's probably one of the most difficult things is balancing how much growth do you really need versus taking a little bit of a step back and focusing on those relationships.
Yeah.
It's tough. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs have.
Well, it's absolutely one of the biggest challenges. And that's why I've said before, it's tough being an entrepreneur, but it's got to be tougher being married to one. We put our wives through hell.
I believe that.
And so I kind of had this mental exercise. I was talking to one of the guys that I mentor. If we, just because the way we're wired, if someone just dropped $10 million in my bank account, $50 million in my bank account, would I stop? No. I was just trying to figure out what can I do with this? How can we get bigger?
Yeah.
How can we get faster? And it's just the way we're wired.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's awesome that you're intentional with this. You're focused on it, because a lot of people kind of just, they just keep driving. And I think that's awesome that you took you reminded yourself and had the presence of mind to look at that. So for a lot of these guys that are listening, so we're talking about paying off $350,000 personal debt to your parents in 6 months. It's crazy to fathom. So I think people need to know, what do your numbers look like?
Yeah. It's honestly, it's still mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Just how different of a place we're in from 1 year ago.
Yeah.
I when all that happened, I said, I'm never letting this happen again. And I'm going to get so far from it that we never have to worry about this again.
Yeah.
And so right now we're averaging about, it varies because we're constantly changing things.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah. But this month so far, I think I've signed 13 contracts. Unfortunately, some of those have fallen through for various reasons, but we'll probably finish this month with about 10 deals.
Yeah.
So for where we're at in the business, for really only doing this 6 months full time, I'm thrilled with that progress.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can complain about that.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, because it's not necessarily easy to replicate what you've done. I wish I could say, hey, everyone just go do what Dan's done and replicate it. But there are some restrictions, or challenges they may run into trying to replicate what you've done. So for people listening right now, what is your number one lead source?
So recently we started up with TV, and it's been incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gotten since then in our group, I think four or five other guys have signed up for TV because of the results they've seen me have so far. And so that's the number one, but we've been constantly changing. I mean, over the past 6 months, we were doing texting. We haven't done cold calling. We were doing Bandit Signs. We were doing some online marketing, Facebook stuff.
Yeah, you were doing a lot of Facebook marketing. I remember that.
Direct mail. And now we're really just focusing on TV because it's been so great.
Yeah. So you're already on this direction, right? You're already on this momentum. So you're doing a lot of texting. So when we first started working together, you were doing texting and Facebook marketing. Yeah. And then it's evolved. Well, you were doing direct mail the whole time too. Actually, you want to share everyone what your direct mail trick is, because no one's doing direct mail the way you're doing it.
Well, for the full details, the course is coming.
Yeah.
But I've set up a system where I can get handwritten direct mail out for less than 60 cents a letter.
Yeah.
And our response rate is 1.65%.
1.65?
Yeah.
That's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't sound great for anyone who's not done direct mail.
Yeah, if you don't know direct mail, that sounds terrible.
But
for direct mail, that's double industry average.
For direct mail, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And at a lot lower cost than if you try to get handwritten letters anywhere else, real handwritten letters by an actual person.
Yeah, not a
robot, not printed out. It's actually handwritten. It'll cost you $3-4 a letter.
Yeah.
So set up a system, which I plan on launching a course for that. That's been great because the response rate has been phenomenal, and I don't have to manage that at all.
Right.
It's fully set up. That's a great system.
Yeah. So direct mail, TV. Where are you with texting?
Stopped
doing it.
Stopped texting altogether.
Okay.
I think we stopped 3 weeks ago or so. It was going great for a while. Really good. And I probably even got into texting pretty late in the game compared to when it was at its high.
Yeah.
But I was tracking the numbers, and maybe what was it, two months ago, it just started to go downhill. Just the return wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And it's such a management intensive method of marketing. You can't have a robot send it. A person has to send it. And then you have to monitor that. You have to do quality control. It's a lot of people management, which I don't want to be in that business. I want to have the leanest team possible.
Got it.
Or at least someone else running that team.
Yeah.
I don't want to be managing those people. So for me, it was an easy choice. The return was going down. It was taking more and more to get the same number of leads. There was so much competition. And so the calls, the response when a homeowner is getting contacted by 10, 11, 12 people, they get sort of nasty.
Do they?
They're not the best conversations. They're not thrilled to talk with you.
Yeah.
And so I never loved doing that. I was just doing it because the deals were there.
Yeah.
And then once I forget what book I read, but it talked about concentration risk and how if you are too focused on any one thing, that's where all your liability is. And so if that one marketing method goes downhill, your business goes away.
Yeah.
And so for me, hearing about all these regulations, all these carrier restrictions, them sending these automated messages at the end of your text, like if you want to opt out, say end or whatever it was. And so there were all these restrictions, and I just saw the writing on the wall, and smart guys like yourself were saying, texting is probably going to be over pretty soon.
Yeah.
It's not going to last that much longer. And I was looking back at some videos from like a year ago, and everyone was saying that same thing. And now it kept going down, and everyone was saying, yeah, are you getting these results too? Like my response rate and my deliverability rate is down by like 30%,
Yeah.
or whatever it was. And so I saw the writing on the wall, and at that point I said, I need to explore some other options for marketing so I can diversify my risk a little bit, but also get something that gives me a better return with less people management.
Right. So who are you managing right now?
Hopefully no one soon, but
You still have to manage one person.
Still one person. So I have our team right now is pretty lean. You know, I have a full-time VA in the Philippines. She's a rock star. I have a few other part-time VAs. I have a sign poster who's local for Bandit Signs. I just hired a chief integration officer. He just started on Monday. He's a rock star, and he's once he's fully trained up, he's pretty much going to be running the day-to-day operations.
Got it.
And managing the people, which he likes to do.
Really?
So for me, that's great.
That's weird. So Bandit Signs.
Yep.
You're still doing Bandit Signs.
I am still doing Bandit Signs.
You're still getting leads from it.
Sometimes I forget about it. Yeah. The calls aren't frequent, but the lead to prospect ratio is really high on those.
Interesting.
If someone calls those, they're probably pretty motivated.
Very interesting. So Ryan Kinney wants to know the process with doing TV. I guess if someone wanted to do TV, any recommendations for them?
They should talk to Darren.
Yeah.
Darren Dammy. He is with Bullseye Branding.
Yeah.
So some really big names use their services. You know, a lot
Doug Hopkins being the biggest one.
Doug Hopkins, Ryan Panetta, soon to be Steve Trang.
Soon to be Steve Trang. Well, really Max Jimenez. Steve's behind the scenes.
Okay. Max Jimenez. A bunch of other guys in our group, a lot of guys in CG. I mean, it's a fully automated process, which for me was ideal because, like I said, hate managing people.
Yeah.
And the simpler and leaner I can get it, the better. And so they do everything. I mean, all I had to do was show up for the shoot, for the commercial, and film that. But they set that all up. They talk to the stations. They do all the ad buys, and they do it really intelligently because they have data from all over the country and all the markets they're in. Maybe they're in, I don't know, 35 markets or so all around the country with other wholesalers.
Yep.
And they look at the call logs. When are people calling in? What numbers did they call? And they track that to what station that came from, what TV show, what time. And then they use that data to make good decisions for your ad buys.
Right.
I never decide what commercials, what times, how many slots. I never look at any of that stuff.
You're not the guy.
So I'm totally offhand with that stuff. And all I have to do is get the leads when they come in.
Yep. And then what's the process from TV to close? I'm guessing when you lead comes in on a TV, generally call in, website.
So I think it's 75% will call, 25% will do a web form. And so we have our leads manager who's the first point of contact. They will qualify and disqualify those leads. If they're qualified, they'll move on to acquisitions where they set an appointment. And so right now I'm doing all the acquisitions. So I'm physically going to the appointment, to the house. If we get that under contract, then, well, he just asked through closing. So goes through the traditional transactions coordination until closing. Unfortunately, New York is an attorney state and about the slowest state you can be in for real estate transactions. I have stuff my pipeline is full.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
And Jake Washburn wants to know, if you aren't good at sales and you're a wholesaler solopreneur, what would you recommend?
If you aren't good at sales, is he already in wholesaling or looking to get into it?
It sounds like he's already in it.
Okay. Well, I would say lean on your strengths. And so if you're not great at sales, get someone who is. Put them on straight commission. Because if they don't produce, you're not paying them anything.
Right.
But if they are good at sales, they're going to be extra motivated because they're on commission. So if you don't want to hire someone, then you need to learn sales.
Yeah.
And you need to learn sales from Steve.
Well, I appreciate that. That's what I was going to say. If you need to get good at sales, we basically like engineered good sales program.
Yeah.
Took our engineering brain and applied it to sales. So David wants to know about Predictive Index. Yeah, I'll definitely send you guys a link later on for Predictive Index.
It's expensive. Predictive Index is expensive if you're buying it for yourself.
Yeah, if you're buying it for yourself, but we can give them a free test.
But it's worth it.
Absolutely.
If you're
worth
hiring
it.
a team, it is worth it.
Yeah. Like the cost, do you know what it is? A cost of a bad hire is how much?
Oh gosh. I don't know the stats, but
it's usually a lot more than the cost of the employee.
Oh yeah. It's like, what is it, like 150% of their yearly salary or something like that. It's yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's really important to get right. And as entrepreneurs, we're impatient.
Yeah.
We don't want to do it right. And so you got to use this. You got to get it right, because if you get a wrong hire is actually more expensive than the program itself. Samuel wants to know, what was your success like with Facebook ads?
So this probably isn't a good representation because for anyone that's read Traction or anything by Gino Wickman, so I'm a visionary all day. Scored a 97 out of 100 on the visionary scale. So in terms of the fine details...
What'd you score on the visionary scale?
97.
Okay.
97 or 98. It was one of those. Very high.
Yeah.
So in terms of details, that's not me.
Yeah.
So I took information and that someone else was doing and having success with and sort of just let that run. But in terms of constantly tweaking things and monitoring the stats and that stuff just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
So I sort of set it and let it go. I know that's not the way I should do it. So that's why I actually sort of stopped doing Facebook ads right now until I have someone that can do that.
Because you were not being responsible with your marketing dollars.
I wasn't. So well, that and really with TV right now, I'm getting more leads than I can handle.
Yeah.
So I didn't need to be wasting money, particularly when I wasn't monitoring it.
Yeah.
So I was spending this money on Facebook ads, not a ton, like $50 a day, but it adds up.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really being responsible with the stats on it. So I turned it off, and I will turn it back on once my team can handle the increase in leads, and once I have someone who can track all the stats, figure out where we should be, and making those tweaks on a regular basis to make sure we're being responsible with that marketing dollar.
Absolutely. George Gutierrez wants to know, what county do you target?
So right now we're just in Monroe County, so in Rochester.
But soon to be?
Yeah, so within the next 12 months, we're going to be also in Buffalo and Syracuse, New York.
Going to be king of Western New York.
That's right.
At some point, maybe they'll call it Dan Bro Stadium, or wherever the Bills play. Shane Imstead wants to know, what's the monthly spend for your TV presence currently?
So all in with the marketing fee and the ad spend, I'm at $13,500.
Yeah, not very much.
For what it brings in, it's not.
Yeah.
It's and the leads are hot.
Yeah,
they are hot. If someone's calling a TV lead, I mean, it's not. It takes lead to a whole nother level, because if you think about like a text lead, it's not even, it's apples and oranges.
Yeah.
So a text lead is just someone who says, yeah, I want to sell. But when someone calls based on your commercial, they're probably going to be pretty motivated.
Yeah.
So it's like a PPC lead. There's usually going to be very little competition. These aren't lists you can buy a lot of times. Or if they would be on a list, they're not on it yet because it happened so recently. So a lot of times on these TV leads, they're not talking to anybody else.
Right. It's exclusive.
They haven't. So there's no, I'm not in a bidding war.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh, that's awesome. Warner Quiroga wants to know, where can he get a nice plaid shirt like the one you have on?
I got this at, my wife ordered the Trunk Club for me.
Yeah. Well, I think what we should do is we should sign it and then sell it to him.
I'll sell it to him.
Yeah. I think
for the right price.
All right. Ernesto wants to know, how much were you spending a month on Facebook leads, and how many leads were you getting?
So we were doing $50 a day on lead generation, and then another, I think it was only like $8 a day on retargeting. I did that for a few months. I think I got like 3 or 4 deals out of it. So it wasn't bad, but the timing for me wasn't right. I'll do it again when I have someone to monitor it.
Yeah, and it's something we've talked about as well, is we have to change it because now it's got to be branded.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You got to flood that branding. Claude Moss wants to know, how much are you spending on TV ads, which you already talked about, 13.5.
13.5.
And are you using a cable network?
So I think right now we're on 3 or 4 different channels. The main, whatever the main ones are right now, it might be Fox, ABC, NBC. I don't know. All the main ones. They're the major networks is where those TV spots go.
Yeah. So guys, post your questions. Happy to answer them. So tangent, your dad was a franchisee for Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
What was that like growing up?
Well, I was 1, so I don't remember. But I know I think he was just in the Rochester area, but if my memory serves me correctly, I think he was the #1 franchisee in the country, and he won a trip to Fiji with Tony.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's been in Fiji that long, Tony Robbins.
Yeah. He's had that resort for 30 years.
Yeah, because I remember him, like, I think it was one of his DVDs or CDs, and it was that he bought a place in Fiji just so his friends could come and hang out.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah, that's the place.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit more expensive now than it was 30 years ago. Let's see. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but maybe this is different. What is your biggest struggle right now?
I would say 2 things, and it's probably pretty similar for most entrepreneurs, is people. So managing people, but finding the right people. Because the wrong people can ruin your business and make your life miserable.
Yeah.
So finding, a lot of people have probably, who is it, Jim Collins, the right people on the bus in the right seats. So, and that's where having these tools like Predictive Index goes a really long way. Making sure that, first off, you have the right people in your company, and that they're a values fit. That's probably #1, is that they're a values fit. Not that they have the skill set. You can teach skills. You can't teach values. Someone's either a good person or they're not.
Right.
They either have similar values to you or they don't. And so if you're not a match there, it's probably going to cause some friction. So people management, getting the right people on the team and training them properly, holding them accountable, all the people management stuff that I hate doing, that I recently hired someone for.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest struggles. The other one is balancing the time and the almost opposing motivations of growing the business, doing more, getting bigger, making more money, versus almost slowing down, handing off some of the reins, spending more time on relationships with my family. Those things clash. And so that's why, coming back to that front row dads, like, it's a community where these guys are all dealing with that, but they've come up with these strategies to deal with it really effectively.
Yeah.
And so just learning from other people is so key. Like, there's so many people I know, they go to YouTube University and they look at all these different people who are doing all this great stuff, and they're stuck in education mode, and they don't put it into action. It doesn't matter. Education doesn't matter that much. It matters what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
Because theory is not the same as reality.
Right.
I can know how to drive. Theoretically know how to drive an F1 race car. Put me in it.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we kind of drove one earlier.
We did. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Teslas are awesome.
What is your superpower?
Taking action.
Yeah.
I think the predictive index just sort of solidified that for me, that I have a real tough time slowing down. And I just, even if something isn't perfect, I know it's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to try, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to work every day to make it a little bit better each day.
Yeah.
And so, this past year, I got back into that medical device job, and then I said, well, then COVID hit. I said, I can't do nothing. I have to do something. I have to take some action. Got into real estate again in wholesaling, and started taking action on that. That started going really well. And I decided to leave that stable, really good job. Again. Twice. But I was able to do that because I was taking consistent action. Again, not massive action. It was consistent action. It's your daily habits that make the difference. It's like anything. It's like working out. Like, you can't go to the gym one time, work your butt off, and then you're in great shape. Yeah. You have to do it every week. You have to do it multiple times a week, consistently.
Yeah. Every day. Rent's due every day.
Every day.
Yeah. So Warner wants to know, what does the next 5 years look like for Dan Bro?
So the next 12 months, plans are to double what we're doing in Rochester, and then also expand into Buffalo and Syracuse, and be doing a little bit less than what we're doing right now in both of those cities.
Yeah.
So that's the next year. After that, I want to purely step into a visionary and owner role for the wholesaling business, and then I'm going to get into some other things. I want to do coaching. I love coaching. It's something I've been doing for a long time. I want to get into that space. I want to get into some bigger holds, like storage facilities, self-storage facilities. I want to get into that, and really free up my time and energy so that I can focus on my unique abilities, the things that I'm the best at and give me the most energy.
Yeah.
So that I can have that choice, and I'm not doing stuff that's so time sensitive, like answering calls, answering emails, going on appointments, the stuff that is so time specific that almost handcuffs me from spending my time how I really want to when the opportunity arises. Sometimes, it might be a beautiful day and I want to spend that time with my family. Well, if I have a bunch of calls or emails or appointments, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's getting my business to that point where I'm owning a business, not running a business. And then I have choice and time and flexibility, which is a big reason why a lot of people, I think, get into entrepreneurship. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't get there because they get so sidetracked by growth.
Yeah, they get bogged down, lose sight. Mike Higgins wants to know, what's your personal morning routine?
My personal morning routine. So it's been a little different lately because I have a 7-week-old. So mornings are a little more difficult than normal. But my wife has taken on the vast majority of the responsibility there, so I can't complain too much. She's a rock star.
Yeah.
But I've learned a lot of different things. There's different breathing exercises. One's called box breathing, and it's typically done to a 4 count. It can be done to any interval, but it's you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. It's very energizing and relaxing, and it sort of centers you. I have my morning questions, my power questions. You can ask, there's a ton of different questions, but it's all, what am I grateful for? What am I excited about? Why is today going to be great? Why am I so lucky? Why am I, all these positive things? Because when, this is all Tony Robbins stuff, those questions. If you ask yourself a question, your mind will come up with an answer.
Yeah.
So you might as well ask a better question.
Ask good questions.
Not, why do I have to get up so early? Why is it so cold out? Why is the world the way it is? Those are crappy questions. You're going to get a crappy answer. But if you ask good questions every single day, what am I happy about? What am I really excited about today? How does that make me feel? you're going to be jazzed for the day.
Yeah.
You're going to be feeling really good because the first hour of the day, the golden hour, it's the rudder of the day. It sets the direction for the rest of your day. So if you start out and the first thing you do is you go on and you check your email and you check Facebook, you're starting off the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're starting off by you're comparing yourself to other people. You're going to be wanting what they want, what they have, or what it looks like they have. You're going to be dealing with issues right off the bat. Take a little time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself good questions. I work out first thing in the morning. I get me time in. I mean, I take care of the dogs and everything too. But I hold that time sacred. And it's the most important time of the day. That and right before bed, asking yourself those same questions. And they can be the same questions, they can be different, but they need to be empowering questions. And that stuff will feed into your subconscious the whole night. And making that stuff a habit, starting off, you'll probably have to write it out. Do it in a journal. After a while, it'll just be a routine. When I lay in bed, those questions just pop into my head. Because I've been doing it so long. So that's the routine that I have, that I know a lot of other people have and have had great success with it.
Yeah, that box method is interesting because that's what Tony Robbins talks about, and I think in Personal Power too. So it's not like you've gone and changed the formula; you're still doing it.
Right.
David Lamb has an interesting question. How did you get to that consistent habit to create that snowball effect? And you might have touched a little bit on your morning routine, but like how do you ensure that you're consistent? And he points this out because right now he's stuck in YouTube University.
Yeah. So if I'll take this from their perspective of he's stuck in YouTube University, trying to figure out when he can make that leap to actually taking action. At some point, it's going to be a leap. There's no guarantees. You will mess up.
You experienced it.
You're going to mess up a lot. There's no avoiding that.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to take action because it doesn't matter how much you know if you don't put it to work. So at some point, whether it's just taking a chance and just putting something on your calendar, by this date, no matter where I'm at, this is what I'm doing. I'm getting to this point. I'm going to, and you don't have to, maybe you have a regular job right now, I don't know, but don't quit your job right away.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing real estate pretty much full time while I had another full-time job for a full year, and saved up a good amount of money. So I made a pretty safe decision. Other people wouldn't think it was safe because I was leaving a 6-figure job, but I was still smart about it. But you have to just take a leap at some point. You can't keep waiting. There's never going to be a perfect time. Never. Something is always going to pop up.
There's always a reason not to. And I think that's what I've told some people when when's the right time to quit? And I tell them, well, when's the right time to get married?
Right.
When's the right time to have kids?
Never.
There's no right time.
There's never a good time.
Pick a date and you just go with it.
Yeah.
So
the world isn't going to stop. It's not going to slow down. Stuff's always going to be happening.
It's definitely not going to stop for you.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to ask a question, and this is just purely for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're going to replay this later on.
Yeah.
So, knowing what you know now, was it worth working with Max and me?
Oh my gosh.
And signing up on the Disruptor Blueprint system?
Gosh. Giving me softballs here. I've said it once. I'll say it again. Signing up with your program was the best business decision I ever made. It completely changed my business. It took me from a point where I really didn't like wholesaling because I didn't like the process.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the sellers that I was working with didn't love the experience. I always felt like bringing my buyers through to show the property was a little awkward, and I just never felt great about it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, man, these sellers, they are so thankful. They love me. They call me their savior, their hero. they are so thankful, and they enjoy the process so much more because I have a better process.
Yeah.
And I put it into work. And I mean, probably 95% of what I do is what I learned in your program. And I know there are a lot of programs out there.
There are.
Guys, Steve is not paying me for this. This is just me saying this honestly, that I know there are a lot of programs out there. Steve is one of the best sales trainers in the game anywhere. He is the sales trainer for one of the biggest mastermind groups that has these big players that are trying to sell you their programs too. He's training them. So what does that tell you? I mean, it doesn't get any better than Steve. And one other thing I would say is that any good, consistent coach, look at any Vince Lombardi, John Wooden, any of these guys, they drill the fundamentals consistently.
Right.
And so many of these courses are so appealing and so sexy because they're trying to teach this fancy stuff that is 5 levels beyond the basics. Mm-hmm. That's not where people need to start. That's not what's going to get you to that next level. What's going to get you to that next level is being really, really good at the fundamentals. Yeah. And this program will get you really good at the fundamentals. It's a blueprint for wholesaling success. It will give you, if you follow what Steve tells you and you put it into action consistently, and you keep trying to get a little bit better and you practice, you will drastically change your business, and you will wonder why you didn't do it years ago.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I probably should pay you for that.
I'll take it.
So I want you to leave, think about what thought you want to leave listeners with while I make a couple of quick announcements. Guys, again, if you got value today, please like, subscribe, share, comment. It really helps us a lot because that's what the algorithms want to see. And then next week we got Brian Snyder and Brett Snodgrass flying in to talk about their business. And then again, we get the workshop, right? Disruptors.com. Go there, see if you qualify. Our workshop's going to be November 14th and 15th. So last thoughts.
Yeah, I would say, other than everything, if I'm going to add something new, anyone who's in this business or any business, treat it like a business. Because I would put money that if you were to take any of the guys that have been on your show, take them out of real estate wholesaling, put them in another business, they would have success. Because they know how to run a business. Mm-hmm. And they've set up the systems, and they've learned how to hire people and evaluate people and do marketing and sales. They know how to run a business. And so many people, I think, struggle in wholesaling and say it doesn't work because they're not actually running a business.
Right.
They haven't learned how to do that yet. And so you need to treat it like it's a regular business, like any other. It's not some hobby you can just do half-ass.
Yeah.
If it's going to take work, any business is going to take work. This one just happens to have higher margins.
Yeah.
So the things you see on YouTube and on social media are totally possible. There are plenty of people doing it, but they're doing it because they have great businesses and they work their butts off.
Right.
So take that consistent action, run a real business, and if you don't know how, learn how, because there are a lot of people that can teach you.
Yeah.
Steve is one of them. Steve, honestly, if you guys are looking into programs, if you're looking into coaching programs, you're trying to get started in wholesaling or take your game to the next level, book a call with Steve. He's an awesome guy, an awesome coach. The program is incredible. It will give you, I haven't calculated the return. I probably should have, but for how much I paid, I would have paid so much more for the program.
Well, I appreciate that. For someone that wants to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
They can find me on Instagram at ActionDanBro.
With an O.
B-R-O. Because everyone would pronounce it wrong if I spelled it the right way.
It's not Brault? Looks like Brault.
It looks like Brault.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Disruptors. Yeah, see we real estate disruptors. Can't nobody touch us. And yeah, we about to give you game. Shout out to Steve Train. Real estate disruptors. They cannot touch us. And yeah, we about to give you game. Shout out to Steve Train. Jump on the Steve Train. We about to give you game. REI's flowing through my veins. And you don't have to look no further. See right here, you gon' learn everything. Yeah, see we real estate disruptors.